تبيعها إن شاء الله وأنت تكبر.
اردم عليهم.
هاي تفضل.
اردم عليهم.
بسبب تغيير المناخ الجوي
Due to climate change and global warming, which the world is facing, and that has also affected Libya. Today we are in the Coms area, specifically in Al Nighaza. This area has experienced drought, and the trees have dried up. We are trying as much as possible to compensate through reforestation, and we have already planted trees in this area. This campaign is perhaps the 5th or 6th one. It's the 5th, and we are trying to change the environment and climate as much as possible. If each person starts with their area or region with what they can do, we will achieve better results, God willing.
Of course, we must care for trees and teach our children how to care for and preserve them. Our ancestors planted trees here, and we are also planting for our children and future generations. Trees represent growth and life. They give us oxygen, they give us nature, they protect us from the current global warming. We advise people to take care of trees, plant them and maintain them. Boeing launched a major stock offering on Monday, which could raise up to $19 billion. The playmaker wants to strengthen finances squeezed by a month-long worker strike and a year-long safety crisis. The US giant is offering 90 million shares of common stock and $5 billion in depository shares. The move should boost Boeing's battered finances. It's been hit hard since roughly 33,000 workers walked off their jobs in September. That stopped production of models including its cash cow 737 MAX aircraft. The firm was already in trouble after a regulator capped production of its MAX jets following a January mid-air panel blowout. The combination of production and labour problems has caused Boeing to burn cash the last 3 quarters. Last week, the company reported a $6 billion third quarter loss and said it would burn cash next year. Striking workers also rejected an improved contract on the same day. A capital raise is for Boeing to preserve its investment-grade credit rating. Ratings agencies have warned a prolonged strike may lead to a downgrade in Boeing's credit rating, which could push up the cost of capital. The strike is also costing the company more than $1 billion per month. That's according to one estimate released before Boeing announced it would cut 10% of its workforce. Earlier this month, Boeing entered into a $10 billion credit agreement with banks. It also announced plans to raise up to $25 billion through stock and debt offerings.
It's a top destination for visitors to South Korea, luring travelers with its traditional houses. But some in Seoul's Bukchon Hanok village say they are victims of over-tourism, and now officials are taking action. In November, the area will start a trial curfew to limit the impact of visitors. The village was popularized by a TV show a decade ago and is now facing issues like noise, littering, and invasions of privacy. Last year alone, the village attracted around 6 million visitors, while its resident population is only about 6,000. Starting in November, tourists will have restricted access to certain areas from 5 p.m. to 10 a.m., with violators facing fines of up to 100,000 Korean won or about $72. The curfew will then officially launch in March 2025. Chung Moon-hun is the mayor of Jongno district, where the village is located. He says the local government will work with residents ahead of the official launch.
We're trying to make tourists come in a balanced way and not cause major inconvenience to the residents. This is the first time we're implementing such a policy in South Korea, so we'll work closely with residents to make adjustments if necessary.
While the local government hopes to protect residents' rights and daily lives, not all residents are convinced it's the right idea. One resident of the capital city says the whole idea is un-Korean.
South Korea is a country with freedom of movement, so controlling that with fines is an excessive measure. It would be better to refine the tourist culture through guidance.
계도를 통해서
Tourists, meanwhile, are divided over the curfew, with some resenting the idea of being fined for walking down a public street, while others acknowledge the importance of residents' quality of life.
Yeah, totally agree with that, where if tourists are being rude and disrespectful to the residents living here, that shouldn't be allowed. And yeah, there should be protections in place so their peace and sanity is preserved.
There are also concerns about enforcement, including how to distinguish tourists from residents, how to ensure foreigners pay fines, and how to address the language barrier.
Well, AI is worrying a lot of people. And again, no, I'm not too worried. I'm too old to get too worried about this stuff. But if I were 30, I'd be worried. Especially if I were 30 and in the arts, and if I were 30 and in the visual arts. If I were a graphic designer, I would be worried. So far, AI is a crap poet. Really bad, like worse than people. And it's not a very good fiction writer either. And people say, well, it will improve, but I think, okay, what do you mean by improve? You will never get an original creator out of AI because it's a data scraper. It can only use stuff that's been put into it.
Lufthansa's third quarter profit fell 9% as its core brand struggled. The German airline group reported Tuesday operating profit of $1.41 billion, largely in line with analyst forecasts. The third quarter includes the busy summer months and is usually the strongest for Europe's airlines. But rising costs, unpredictability linked to the Middle East crisis and plane delivery delays all weighed on results. CEO Carsten Spohr also blamed punctuality issues at the airline's German hubs. Lufthansa's passenger airlines generated an operating profit of just under $1.3 billion in the third quarter, down on a year before. The drop was driven mainly by a more than $250 million decline in the results of its core brand Lufthansa Airlines. Analysts said Lufthansa also saw a slower recovery in corporate travel spending. The carrier has complained about its struggles to compete with Chinese carriers still able to fly over Russian airspace. The group has launched a turnaround program at its core brand as it tries to recover after a difficult year to date. Lufthansa has already issued 2 profit warnings this financial year as it deals with costs tied to strikes. Looking ahead, the company confirmed its outlook for the full year as it aims for group operating profit in a range of up to $1.95 billion.